Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the current MVP race, which I'm sure a lot of y'all are kind of sick about hearing because it's all over like ESPN, Fox Sports, Undisputed, shows like that. It's all over NBA Twitter. It's the most heavily debated thing in the league right now, which shouldn't be a surprise because it's the league's most prestigious award, up there with like the Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, All NBA selections. But whenever people think about a season, people remember who the MVP was most of the time, and it feels like it's more heavily debated than maybe ever before. Now, there were some very heated ones. I remember back in 2016 when Russell Westbrook won his MVP award. I was fighting for my life, debating with my friends, talking about this is why Russ should win it. As a Thunder fan, I'm saying the triple doubles. I'm talking about the supporting cast not being very good, what he's done, the narrative surrounding it. There's a lot of things that go into an MVP race, and he did end up winning. But even to this day, people look back and say, oh, James Harden should have won it over Russell Westbrook, and you can have your own opinion. But there's a reason why the MVP is so heavily debated. However, this year, it's on another level. And this is mainly because it's between two guys who have been in a battle for this award for the past 2 seasons. Nikola Jokic has now won back-to-back MVPs, and right behind him in back-to-back second-place finishes has been Joel Embiid. And once again, it feels like we're hurtling towards these two guys finishing at the top 2 spots in the MVP race for the 3rd year in a row. I don't know if that's ever happened, where there have been 3 straight years of the same guys finishing 1 and 2. I'm sure it's happened before. We've had a lot of greats in the league at the same time, but it's probably one of those rare occurrences where there are 2 guys who are consistently battling out for this top award in the league. And once again, it feels like we're in for a really close finish. However, that hasn't been the case for the entire year, as for a majority of the season, Nikola Jokic has been the prohibitive favorite, and it makes sense why he's the guy that's at the top. He's averaging a 25 point per game triple-double while shooting 63% from the field, over 40% from deep, on the top team in the Western Conference. And despite being the MVP the past 2 seasons, he's somehow better than ever. His offensive impact is ridiculous. He's having the most efficient 24+ point per game season of all time with a 69.9 true shooting percentage, while possibly being the best playmaker in the entire NBA. He's an elite rebounder. Basically every advanced stat, regardless of what you look at, says that Jokic has been the best player in the league the past few seasons. It makes sense why Jokic has been the favorite all year to win the award. And it almost seemed like it was wrapped up completely about a month ago, because at that point, there was like this mid-season, I think The Athletic did it, it was a mid-season media poll talking about who should win the MVP award. And of course, Jokic was at the top with Joel Embiid there, Giannis was also there in the conversation, and Luka received 1 vote himself. But out of the 25 people that voted, 17 of them picked Nikola Jokic. That is a very big margin for any guy on that list to overcome. It's really hard to make up that much ground at the end of the season, because honestly, when that came out, most people kind of have in their head by that point who's going to win the award. And it really should be the entire body of work throughout the entire season. But I feel like a lot of time voters will go into the All-Star break and be like, this is the person that I'm looking for to win this award. And unless something drastic happens, it's probably who they're going to go for at the end of the season. Now, some people have been mad about this. Jokic potentially winning a 3rd straight MVP and 3-peating, because it's very rarely happened in NBA history. And some people are saying, oh, Jokic doesn't deserve to have a 3-peat with some of the all-time greats, when guys like LeBron James never 3-peated or Kobe Bryant never 3-peated in MVP awards. Why is Jokic doing it? And to be honest, I think that's a terrible argument. Regardless of historical context, if a player in the moment is good enough to win MVP after MVP after MVP, you're saying we shouldn't give it to them just because in history some other guys haven't done it? I think it's a terrible argument. It's a bad reason to not give Jokic the MVP. If you have an argument for another one of the guys, I completely understand that. But if that's your reasoning, I think it's very flawed and is bad for the game. We should want to see history be made. We should want to see records be broken. I made a whole video on this. It's called the Nikola Jokic problem on my channel. So if you want to hear me talk about that more, make sure to go check out that video. But yeah, that's the basic gist of it. It makes sense why Jokic has been the big favorite the entire season and why he is still the favorite to win the award at this point. But while the race may have seemed over about a month ago, that's no longer the case, as Joel Embiid has made a massive comeback in this argument. He is right on Nikola Jokic's tail at this point, and I think in a lot of people's minds, he is even past Nikola Jokic. After finishing 2nd place, I personally thought he was going to win MVP coming into the season. He was my pick. I thought he was well set up. He had a great supporting cast for the Sixers to potentially go out and get a 1, 2, or 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, something that they could do throughout the rest of this year. They've still got a shot to jump to 2 or 1, although I think 3 is the most likely spot for them. He also seemed poised to have the best season of his career. He had been getting better and better, and now having James Harden, an elite playmaker, better guys around him in general, it just felt like Joel was going to take another step, which despite being absolutely incredibly dominant the past few years like Jokic, he has done so. He is playing the best basketball of his career. He's averaging 33.4 points per game, 10 rebounds, 4.1 assists while shooting 54% from the field and 35% from deep with a steal and a block and a half per game. He himself is breaking efficiency records as he's having the most efficient 33 plus point per game season ever in the history of the league with a 65 true shooting percentage. He's also in position to win the scoring title, which would be his second time doing so. And he's also potentially playing his way onto an all defensive team. He's going to be in those conversations as the Sixers are one of the best units in the league when he's on the floor. He's doing basically everything. He's playing dominantly on both sides of the ball. He's putting up ridiculous numbers, and it's something he's been doing all season. But really, as of late, is when he's been making his big push, as since the All-Star break, he's been on an absolute tear. And over their last 5 games, Embiid is doing ridiculous things. He's putting up 37 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, and 5 assists, while shooting 60% from the field and 53.3% from deep over the Sixers' last 5 games, in which they are 5-0 and continue to try and push for one of those top 2 spots in the Eastern Conference. These wins also include a massive comeback win over the Milwaukee Bucks, who they're directly competing with. They were down double digits late as almost the end of the third quarter. They were down by, I believe, 17 or 18. Then James Harden turned it up and Embiid came back in the game and he had clutch shot after clutch shot, including a massive 3 that I believe was the shot that gave the Sixers the lead towards the end, which they ended up holding on to. But he was massive in that win, playing some amazing defense as well on Brook Lopez, on Giannis Antetokounmpo down the stretch. He was critical. And so a win like that alongside a few days ago against the Portland Trail Blazers, the Sixers were down 10 points with around 4 minutes to go. Embiid enters the game and completely dominates, knocking down shot after shot, continuously bringing them back into things while playing amazing defense to end up hitting a turnaround 360 game-winning shot that looked Kobe-esque. It's something that no 7-footer should really be able to do, but that's something I could say about Joel Embiid. Basically, anytime he's out there on the court, he just does not make sense as a 7-footer with guard-like skills, playing elite defense, leading the league in scoring. He's really making a massive push to potentially finally take home this MVP. Meanwhile, Denver has kind of struggled as of late, as they're on a 3-game losing streak to not great competition. They got blown out by the Bulls. They lost to the Spurs, who have been one of the worst teams in the league the entire season. They lost to the Brooklyn Nets, who have been solid, but they're a team that the Nuggets should beat. Jokic's defense has really struggled too. He's never been a great defender, although I would say he's been solid enough this season. But the last few games, I feel like he's kind of stopped trying as much on that end offensively. He's still having some great games like 30-point triple-doubles, but it's not translating to wins. So the Nuggets and Sixers are almost identical in record. Embiid is trending up while Jokic seems to be trending down a bit. The race is tightened, and I do think Jokic still is in the lead at the moment. But I found myself as of late leaning Embiid more and more. It's something that I go back and forth between multiple times a day where I think to myself, either of these guys could win this award. And I love that because I hate when it feels like award races are decided like a month left in the season. Right now, it feels like it's going to come down to these last couple weeks to decide who actually takes home this award, whether Jokic has a historic three-peat or Embiid ends up finally taking home that award after finishing in second the past few seasons. This might all culminate in a March 27th matchup of the Sixers and the Nuggets, which the NBA scheduled perfectly, setting up a battle between these two MVP frontrunners that could mean a lot, even though one game really should not matter that much in the context of the award as a whole. It does most of the time for voters. And if this trend continues where Embiid and the Sixers continue to trend up while the Nuggets trend down, and we reach that game, if the Sixers come out of a win where Embiid has an amazing performance, that might be exactly what he needs to turn the tides on the race. Jokic, meanwhile, he has the chance to turn around the Nuggets, and in that game, if the Nuggets go out and beat the Sixers, who they lost to earlier in the season, and Jokic has a massive effort, that could silence all of Jokic's doubters and propel him to that third straight MVP award. It's a perfectly placed matchup by the schedule makers, and it's a game that I'm looking forward to more than almost any other on the rest of the regular season calendar. It's probably also going to be like the most toxic day in recent NBA Twitter history, so I'd stay off that if you don't want to see all that. It's been annoying to look at, and that's been one of my big issues with the MVP debate over the course of this season. As fun as it's been from someone who just enjoys the game of basketball, half my timeline is Sixers fans that are posting lowlights of Jokic while posting Embiid's highlights and saying this is why he's better. The other half is people that are fans of the Nuggets or Jokic doing the exact same thing. It's been really annoying to see, so I've kind of stopped scrolling Twitter as much because of that. But me personally, I've enjoyed the hell out of this MVP race. It's been so fun. I truly think we're in for one of the best award season finishes ever. Not just this award, but like the most improved player award between Lowry, Shea, Jalen Brunson, amongst others. That award is really close to the 6th Man of the Year award. It's like Malcolm Brogdon and Emmanuel Quickley are right there next to each other. Paolo's been the leader for Rookie of the Year, but Jalen Williams is making a late push, although I don't know if he'll catch him. There are a lot of awards that are really up in the air. Defensive Player of the Year, Jaren Jackson and Brook Lopez are the favorites, but I could see someone else popping into that, or one of those two guys taking it from the other one. It's all so close. I love award season, and this MVP award in particular has been so fun to follow, and I can't wait to see how it finishes. Now, I do want to note before we end this video, while I've talked about Jokic and Embiid being the two frontrunners like I think they are for this award, there's one more guy that deserves a lot more love when we have this conversation, and that's Giannis Antetokounmpo. Why is nobody talking about Giannis as one of the top MVP candidates? I really think there's a chance that he could win the award. The Bucks right now are the best team in the NBA despite starting kind of slow. Chris Middleton missed a lot of the season, and even when he's played, hasn't really looked like himself up to this point. There's been a couple of games, but he's still working his way back from injury. A lot of other guys on this roster have missed significant time as well, yet they've stayed afloat in large part due to the play of Giannis, who some people are saying is having a down season, but he's putting up 31 points per game, 12 boards, and 5.5 assists while playing elite defense. Doesn't really sound like a down season to me. Sure, Giannis has had better years probably, but this is still an incredible year from Giannis on the best team in the league. Why are we not talking about him more? And once again, like I mentioned with Nikola Jokic, this is a video that I already made talking about the Giannis Antetokounmpo problem. I dropped that on my channel like probably about a month ago, so if you want to go see that, go check that out. I'll try to remember to link that and the Jokic video in the description below. But I basically just talked about why, despite being in most people's minds, mine included, the best player in the world, Giannis doesn't really get the love for award races like I think he should. It's something similar to what we saw with LeBron James, where we look back and say, hey, he should have a lot more MVPs. I think Giannis is going to have a pretty similar case where we look back and we're like, why is he only like a 2-time, a 3-time, a 4-time MVP by the end of his career when he probably should have won a lot more? And that's a whole video I made, like I said. So if you want to hear more of me talking about that, go check it out. But yeah, I had to shout out Giannis here because I do believe he deserves to be in this race. It's not just a 2-man race. Giannis should be there as that third guy alongside Jokic and Embiid, even if those two are probably the favorites. With all that being said, I think that's all I've got for y'all in today's video. I just kind of want to make a fun video where I talk about how great the MVP race has been, how close it is, how many great candidates there are. There's been just way too much toxicity surrounding this debate, whether you think it's Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, whoever. I think it should be more about just enjoying how great these performances are, how close the race is, and I think regardless of who wins, they're going to be a very deserving winner. So that's where we're going to leave the video off for today. Like I said earlier, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy it. Helps the channel out a ton. Also, comment down below, letting me know who you think should win MVP at this point. Make me a case, because like I said, I'm still kind of in the middle, so I'd love to see what you all have to say about this debate. Please keep it civil, because there's already enough toxicity surrounding this MVP race in general. But I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.